So that's certainly one aspect of what it is that we're up against. We need to look at how we deal with people with real problems. And how we deal with kamachats, the real criminal. We still have to deal with the real criminal. And believe me, every day you see different situations. So, in dealing with that, we also have to take the responsibility in our communities to deal with the people that create havoc in our communities. We focus a lot in certain situations to the accused because they get there through a certain trail. The victim also gets there through a certain trail. And quite often the victim is not in the forefront of the criminal justice process in front of the judge. Who speaks for the victim? So when I actively try and recruit the people of the likes of Corporal Emma Caper had to come and work in the Cree court, there's a public plug if I ever heard it. It's because the people that also have to play the role in the prosecutorial side need to be people that have a good, thorough understanding of the enforcement aspect of what they do that is required, the prosecution process that is required, and the understanding of the community to which they will deal with. Because sexual assaults are still prevalent, major spousal abuse factors are still prevalent. We need people who have the understanding of that. We need people who can play a role within the criminal justice system that will also prosecute, speak for the victim in that particular process. It is important. We cannot shy away from that responsibility of playing a role in there too. When we look in the community, and I started looking at numbers, and when I looked at the numbers in Cree court, and I'm looking at anywhere from 10,000 to 12,000 appearances in the Cree court, that's a fairly high number. And then when I look at the type of crimes that I'm dealing with, major victim, the personal confrontation of people, of what might be called the violence of poverty and the violence of unemployment, to where some of that stems, coupled and fueled with alcohol, it becomes a very volatile situation for victims. It's a volatile situation for children. So we also have to look to the leadership to deal with the marginalized people of their own community and how they deal with their own marginalized people, because quite often those are the people that are not first on the employment line when there's any type of employment within the banned situation. They're marginalized within their own communities. How is the leadership going to deal with those people? Because it seems to be a good, fair number of the same people that make up that revolving door within our communities, in the criminal justice system. So there's some hard facts and hard situations that leadership also has to look at. I'm not lost to the fact that they certainly want to do something with that. And it becomes a little hard to prioritize when you're having to make hard decisions with limited budgets. Those are the givens within that framework of operation, of making decisions. But we must start somewhere. We must be proactive within our own communities of making it a safe community. We have that responsibility. as a people, and not to rely on the outside for those type of situations. We need to deal with them internally. So certainly the Cree Court plays a small role, and a small role. When somebody said the other day, we are reactive, the criminal justice system, the minister said justice is a reactive. To a certain way, Cree Court is reactive in that sense too. If I were to say what are some things that I think that are important that I would want to see in the next while, I think a bigger role within the communities that I work in, of course, is from the community. Now, Mr. Swan works in the communities that I'm involved in, 2 northern communities, and I saw Jack Bear here earlier on, works in one of the other communities. And to try and involve and try and deal with issues, they're the real peacekeepers out there. They're trying to resolve issues between families, between friends who got in a fight, got charged. What place do they have in the criminal justice system? Is it not better to resolve those issues within that particular framework as opposed to an itinerant flying Cree court or any court? It's better it's resolved within that community. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Part of the problem is part of the policy that the Department of Justice has. And those policies are that if you have a criminal record, you're not a candidate for mediation from a police perspective. It takes away that discretion. Well, I have a problem with that. If these two people have a problem, it can be resolved, and it has a more lasting effect between those people. Have we not achieved more than the sanctioning of any outside body that says, you go to jail, you know? If there's peace between those people, is that more lasting? I think that's much more important than whether or not I have a bigger caseload to deal with. Just because you have a criminal record is a form of systemic racism also. And let me explain it this way. If we say we've had a lot of problems with the criminal justice in the past, how come we still rely on his records to exclude people from different programs? If there were mistakes made there, then let's deal and ignore that and try and resolve those differences between people. That is what is more important, not whether or not they have a record. That's not important. The record will stop them in many different ways in relation to whether they get a job because of criminal records check, although I heard the government doesn't do that. But there will be a criminal records check if you work for an Aboriginal organization. Because we are harder on ourselves. Okay? So those type of things, I think, are important. What I do in the Cree Court is really irrelevant to what should really happen in the community. That's where the people are, and that's where those differences need to be dealt with, whether it's addictions, criminal activity to support addictions, or the dispute between families and people. We should be the last resort in terms of dealing with the issue. I'll leave you with that, and I thank you very much.